Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. My name is Brother Bro Rashed, and I am the poet, author, and Peaceful Hearts Guide. And today on our Wellness with Rashed, I wanted to share with you the root of all mental suffering. So whether we're talking about anxiety, social anxiety, worrying about the future, worrying about death, worrying about terrible things happening to us, depression, misery, all of these forms of external, deep-rooted mental pains. Even things like social anxiety and not feeling comfortable relating with other people, feeling like a social outcast or being uncomfortable living in your own skin. Things like struggling with feeling like we're just not good enough, or I'm just not good enough to be around these people, or I'm just not religious enough, or I'm just not a good person. Those feelings of self-loathing, those feelings of hatred, those feelings of not loving ourselves. I've struggled with those for many, many, many years. In fact, despite all of my worldly and academic and whatever accomplishments I had made, I saw myself in the worst light for years. Anytime anybody tried to compliment me or acknowledge any good that I'd done in my life, or even the fact that I was trying to do good, I was so hard on myself. I was so negative. I was lost in depression. I was lost in misery, and I just couldn't find the light. And then someone shared with me the two words that transform all of that mental suffering, all of that mental anguish, all of that pain into relief and joy and happiness and confidence and strength and love. Do you know what those two words are? They are self-worth, soul worth. These two words are the definition of what overcomes all of the mental anguish. The reason for all of our mental suffering is because we lack self-worth. And the moment we embrace our own self-worth, we are able to overcome all of these negative sufferings and mental anguishes. And I want to share with you that, of course, there are times in which we need medication or other kinds of external things to aid us in this journey. With it all, the key to experiencing peace and joy in life is self-worth. And there are a lot of talkers and a lot of speakers and a lot of even counselors who will tell you, you know what you really need to do? You need to get some self-esteem. You know what you need to do? You need to just think positively. You need to be able to look at the bright side look at the glass half full instead of half empty. But the question is how? Everyone tells us how easy it is to do, but they never show us step by step how that we can go from the darkest abyss and the darkest depths and the darkest night that we're stuck in. How do we find the light? How do we find and embrace self-confidence and self-esteem and all of these other beautiful, wonderful things? They're just words. If you've been struggling, banging your head against the wall, trying to figure this out, and you haven't been able to do it, and you've been struggling with mental anguish and depression and anxiety and all of these woes, and you just can't get any relief, I do have good news. It is possible to transform our lives and to embrace our self-worth and to get that self-confidence and self-esteem and all of those other wonderful things. But there's a very specific way that we get to that goal. There is a very specific process that we go through as human beings and especially as Muslims that helps us to interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to walk on that path of guidance to embrace our own self-worth. And if you look at anybody in the world, even those who don't have mental illness, but those who are struggling with self-esteem issues, or those who are struggling with feeling like they don't have enough money, even though they're earning hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars a year, they still feel like they don't have enough. They don't have that internal peace. They don't have that joy in their lives. Those people who are workaholics, working 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, and still they feel like they just can never get ahead. Those people who are pushing themselves to their limits. All of these struggles in life have one root cause: low self-worth. Self-worth is the key to unlocking all of these dynamics. It's also the key for unlocking our ability to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship and to be true believers with the strongest of iman. Self-worth is the key for all of these things. But if you don't know how to get it, and if you've been struggling for years trying to find it, I suggest that you reach out. If you send me a message, I can share with you one of the guides that I have, a free guide that is a free opportunity to start building that self-worth with a daily practice. And there's more to it than that. There's definitely more. But the first step is to take the first step. And I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. The first step is to implement practices in our lives that help us to feel that self-worth. There are more steps down the way, but don't worry about the next steps. Just worry about taking the first step. So if you would like some guidance in how to feel self-worth in your life, if this is something that you've been struggling with and you feel like enough is enough and you've been suffering long enough and you want to make a change, especially in this blessed month of Ramadan, then reach out, send me a message, and I'll be able to connect you with that resource. I hope that, and I pray that relief comes to you and your family, and I pray that we all take action to help make our destiny in a more positive light. Allah asks us, and we make dua to Him, and we ask Him for what we need, but He expects us to take action to make our du'as come true. And so with this, I bid you adieu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.